Well, hello everybody. Hopefully you can all see and hear me quite clearly. If you can, give me a little high five, a little virtual high five, or a little yes in the chat function, just to let me know that you can all see and hear me quite clearly. Good stuff. Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much, everybody, for prioritizing some of your valuable time and joining this short session, this short bite-size webinar around nutrition. Specifically, we're going to be looking at hunger today. But thank you so much for prioritizing you and your time and your well-being and joining this short session. It's going to be about 20 to 30 minutes today, nothing too crazy in that sense. Please feel free to interact as much as you can with some of the reflective questions that we've got for you today, and take as much as you can from this short session today. Um, my name's Grant. I'm one of the wellbeing coaches here at Wellbeing People, and within your Habits for Health program, there's a number of modules that are covered under that pillar of wellbeing, which is nutrition, and today we're going to look at different elements of nutrition that will certainly be covered in a little bit more detail within your Habits for Health program. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is to jump straight into the session today. And again, feel free to utilize that chat function to share your answers, your thoughts, your ideas and reflections around this topic of nutrition. And I'm sure you can agree it's a topic that's kind of discussed and debated almost more than politics, right? It's uniquely specific to you and uniquely specific to me. So what works with regards to my nutrition and what works for me, and the habits that I employ and the foods and the meals and the way that I manage my nutrition might be slightly different to yours as well. So we need to keep that in mind as we journey through the session, that we're unique when it comes to our own nutritional needs and requirements and things like that. Take what you can from today and we'll see how we get on. Let's have a look. Give me a high five. Are you there? Have you not? Well, just a quick check. Have you got a nice bottle of water or a nice cup of tea or a warm drink within arm's reach as I speak now? Good stuff. We've got a few people raising their hands, which is awesome. Stay hydrated. It's just a short session today, but we'll see how we get on. Okay, well, let's jump into it, shall we? Click. Today we're going to be looking at lots of information around nutrition. We're going to be diving into specifically how we can apply some of these habits, these habits around nutrition, around how we manage the foods that we eat and how we select the foods that we eat, and why, importantly, we select the foods that we eat as well. So we're going to understand, among other things, why it is you want to change your daily habits. Do you want to change your daily habits? I mean, give me a high five in the chat function, or give me a virtual high five. Do you feel like now is a good time for you to start to apply and make some more beneficial and helpful changes when it comes to your nutrition? Is now a good time for you to practice and experiment some new habits around your nutrition? If it is, then today's going to be a useful kind of insight and stepping stone for you. We're going to build our awareness today around hunger, and power of a nutrient mindset, which is going to play a big part as we move forward for today. We're going to discover dietary fat and protein, and how it can kind of maintain our energy levels and prevent us, or certainly reduce these spikes and troughs when it comes to our energy levels throughout the day. We're going to explore the benefits of fasting and find out whether it's right for you. Because again, just to reiterate, we're all very unique. We're all very different in terms of our makeup and how we utilize our nutrients. And finally, of course, as always, we're going to encourage you to, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire somewhat, and I'd like you to commit to experimentation around some sort of new habit that you want to implement today. And we'll see how we get on. Fabulous. Okay. Remember, this session is being recorded, so if at whatever point you need to jump off the call, remember it is being recorded, so you will be able to access this as well as a recording. Okay, a few things that we're going to focus on first. The first is our nutritional foundations. Now, remember, within your Habits for Health program, you've got 3 separate modules that will certainly explain this in a little bit more detail. But for now, just going to introduce you to these key foundations of nutrition. The first is how and when, and this refers to our conscious consuming or mindful eating. And you may have been experimenting with this already, but we look at these, what we call steps to conscious consuming. And these involve these particular actions. So sitting down prior to, or when we're eating our meals, disconnecting when we're eating our meals, stepping away, give yourself that little digital detox for that short period of time. Pause again, pause before you take that first bite. Take a big deep breath. This will calm your nervous system and it will help you direct a little bit more blood flow towards your digestion. And slow down. Again, my nemesis when it comes to eating. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I just it's fuel sometimes for me, and I just shovel it down and I eat very, very quickly. So slow down, put the cutlery down between your mouthfuls, and chew your food. Your stomach doesn't have any teeth. So stop it from creating kind of excess kind of acid and things like that. And we can prevent that or certainly reduce that by chewing our food more effectively. And when we apply these steps to conscious consuming, we're able to absorb more nutrients. We dramatically reduce bloating. We reduce that acid reflux, and we can actually reduce stress as well. I'm going to ask you a first reflective question here. If you could pick one of those to focus on today, which step to conscious consuming would you like to experiment with when you sit down for today's meals? Share with me in the chat function. Is it going to be sit down? Is it going to be disconnect? Putting those devices away? Is it going to be taking a big deep breath before you consume your food? Is it going to be slowing down? I'm going to attempt slowing down again. And chewing. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Good stuff. So we've got a few things popping in the chat. Good stuff. Okay, so again, the how and the when is a very important foundation. When it comes to the when, this is particularly important, and we're going to touch base on this today. And this involves kind of allowing your systems, allowing your digestive system to have a little bit of a rest, to rebuild, to repair, to assimilate, to absorb all of these different foods and nutrients that we're going to be providing it. So, ideally, we're going to look at giving our digestive system a bit of a rest, a bit of a break as well. And we'll talk about that as we journey through today's session as well. The next key foundation here is the what. And of course, this becomes incredibly important, right? So here we're going to be focusing around quality over quantity. So looking for those upgrades, more nutrients and fewer chemicals. And what does that look like? We can really start to think about some easy ways or easy kind of an accessible clues and habits that we can apply that are really noticeable that we know are going to provide us with a little bit more nutrient and fewer chemicals. We can really begin to transition into that optimal well-being kind of nutrition kind of headspace and nutrient mindset. So one of the ways that we can do that is to focus on these, what we call the 5 S's, salad, soup, stir fry, stew, and shake, and just ensure that perhaps one of these 5 S's is perhaps within one of our meals throughout the day today. Now, this might be the case for you. And if it is, we know that if you're going to make one of these meals, one of these 5 S's, we know typically it's going to involve a little bit more nutrient, isn't it? A little more fiber. So we're going to look at nutrients. We're going to look at macronutrients as well briefly today and touch base on that. Give me a high five. Do you think today is a good day to practice one of your 5 S's? Will you be practicing one of your 5 S's today, or do you typically do that? Again, take a moment just to reflect. Is it going to be a useful practice and a useful experiment for you if you want to consume a little bit more in terms of nutrient-based foods? And then finally, of course, how much, that key foundation, again, that we're going to look at today again. And we're going to notice that when of course, we pull these three parts together, the how and the where and the what and the how much, we begin to discover, what really matters for us. What is your perfect diet? Now, remember, this isn't my perfect diet. It's your ideal diet for you and your lifestyle at this time. And discovering how much, again, is going to be really dependent on a lot of things. And again, we'll look at that as we journey through today. So these are the nutritional foundations: how, when, what, and how much. So let's reflect around hunger. So um, let's start with the first of our four types of hunger, which is nutritional hunger. Now, this type of hunger refers to true hunger. So this is essentially when the cells in your body are just crying out. They're communicating to your brain, and they're saying, look, I need some particular nutrients in order to grow and thrive. Now, many of us are nutritionally starving, but consistently over consuming. Does that resonate with you? Do you feel like sometimes, it might be you or someone you know who feels, that, and you notice they that nutritionally starving, but yet consistently over consuming. So here we're going to be looking at how do we get ideal amounts of nutrients in our body. So again, some of the top tips might involve, we spoke about those kind of five S's, didn't we? Those soups, the stews, the salads, etc., and the shakes. And we spoke about a great way to, again, get the recommended nutrients into our bodies is to have those five S's. Other top tips when we start to think about nutrition, again, consider the rainbow colored plate, consider seasonal and organic foods and vegetables as well. And consider that rainbow plate. I mean, it's such a simple challenge, isn't it? Such a simple experiment just to ensure that there's a little bit more, diversity of foods on your plate and lots of bright colors, lots of vibrant colors when we're eating a meal indicate lots of micronutrients, lots of different vitamins and minerals and so on and so forth. And especially probably lots of different colors, again, equating to lots of water, lots of fiber and lots of nutrients. So one of the types of hunger could be for us is that your body's literally just crying out for a specific nutrient. Another type of hunger, of course, is thirst. Now, give me a high five. Have you got a busy brain? Does your brain sometimes perhaps worry about what may or may not go on tomorrow, or ruminate and rehash all of the wrong things and negative things from yesterday? Sometimes we just live in our brain a little bit. And because of this inability sometimes to remain present, we've stopped listening to our body's kind of struggle to recognize really the difference between being thirsty and feeling hungry. So many foods that we consume, of course, contain water. And so sometimes we think we're hungry, but actually we're thirsty. So another type of hunger might be thirst hunger. Now, give me a high five. Have you got a big water bottle or a glass of water or something within arm's reach right now? Because we need to utilize that as a nice and wonderful little prompt to ensure that we have access to drinking plenty of water throughout our day. So what else can we do? Top tips, again, to overcome this type of hunger, focus on those prompts, focus on those triggers, which is going to prompt you to act. In other words, have a little bit of water. And perhaps for some of you right now, you're going to do that. And you're doing it right now as you're reaching for your glass of water or bottle of water. Another key thing that we can do to remind ourselves to again, consume more fluid might be to stack those habits. So for example, every time I have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, I'll always have a glass of water next to it or have a sip of my water immediately afterwards as well. So we can start to kind of link or stack these habits. It could be that you link behaviors as well. So every time I go for a pee, as soon as I come back to my workstation, wherever I am, I'll kind of rehydrate as well. So you can link habits to whatever kind of fits in with your lifestyle as well. Yeah, I know. And there's someone saying in the chat function here saying they recognize that they need to drink a little bit more water, but they often forget because they're rushing between meetings. So again, link that. But perhaps an experiment might be, okay, every time a meeting finishes, your immediate reaction might be to just grab a glass and have a swig. It might be that just before a meeting starts, you can link a habit and say, okay, well, before that meeting starts, I'm going to introduce my new habit that I want to apply, which is to drink some water. So you can use the start or finish of an existing behavior to trigger the new behavior that you want to introduce. But I think we can all connect with that some days, life gets in the way. Do we all agree? Some days you're just at it constantly. Um, but remember, we can't pour from an empty cup. So it's okay to prioritize you. It's okay to pause and come up for a bit of air. Your body will thank you, and so will your brain. Absolutely. Fabulous. Okay. Next is emotional hunger. Oh, crikey. Now, I'm willing to take a bit of a punt here that many of you, in fact, I'll say all of us, have experienced some form of emotional hunger. I mean, have you ever reached for a food or a drink because you're feeling a certain way? And what sort of emotions or feelings might you be feeling in order for you to reach for these foods? Share with me in the chat function. So identify some emotions, identify some feelings that get you, that make you reach for those quick fixes. Yeah, boredom. Someone's jumped in straight away with boredom, right? So boredom is what is it Jimmy Carr said? I said this the other day. Jimmy Carr, the comedian Jimmy Carr, said that boredom is unappreciated serenity. I love that. Isn't that great? But yeah, so we can feel bored, we can feel stressed. I'm willing to bet, if you've ever, reached for that biscuit and found yourself munching on that cake or drinking that drink, you know, because when you're bored, when you're stressed, when you're happy, when you're sad, when you're angry, then you've experienced emotional hunger. So, how do we overcome emotional hunger? Now, it's very, very challenging, but we can take steps towards managing it a little bit more effectively. So, some of the things that we can implement and we can practice is to take a big, deep pause when we notice ourselves that we're reaching for this thing or we're going outside on, I'm bored in the evening. I'm going to take a snack, and it's going to be, that bowl of cereal, or it's going to be that packet of crisps, it's going to be that biscuit that I'm going to typically reach for. Take a big deep pause, big deep breath, ask yourself, do I really need this? Another thing that we can do actually is drink a glass of water and then ask ourselves, am I hungry enough to eat an apple? And when we ask these two questions, or when we do these two actions, you know, it will let us know if it's nutritional hunger or thirst hunger or emotional hunger. So yes, often there's lots of other triggers around emotional hunger as well that we can look into. And finally, the fourth type of hunger here that we're going to look at is blood sugar hunger. When we experience those spikes and crashes in our blood sugar and it affects our energy levels. Give me a high five. Do you sometimes notice that your energy levels dip? Do they wane? Do they increase after a certain part of your day or a certain action? What affects your blood sugar? So this is really, again, really important to notice because the hormones that help manage our blood sugar, they're associated with all sorts. It's kind of like the orchestra for your body, right? So these different hormones, and when we start to balance these hormones, um, other hormones start to behave themselves. So blood sugar levels, how do we manage those? We can look at meals and we can look at snacks that are rich in dietary fat and protein. And again, we'll go into the reasons why in a moment or two. But fabulous stuff. Let me ask you very quickly, just a little bit of a reflection, just before we jump into the next part here. Which of these four types of hunger would you like to prioritize and manage a little bit more effectively? Which do you notice in yourself? And which would you like to manage a little bit more effectively if you had to choose one? Just for the rest of the week, just for the next couple of days, which one would you like to manage more effectively? Good stuff. Okay. Someone's saying here, someone's saying blood sugar. I need to stop eating sweets and chocolates. Well, it's good that we're aware, right? It's good that we're aware of the habit of eating sweets and chocolates. And it might be that we'll speak about it in a minute, but it might be that we look for upgrades as well as kind of abstinence that sometimes people feel that they want to reach for. Let's talk a little bit here about some of these macronutrients. Now, if we're in a perhaps some of us we count calories. And give me a high five. Have you ever done that? Have you ever, caught yourself counting calories when you're looking at meals or looking at foods? Because if we are in that calorie counting mindset, we can get stuck in more of a quantity mindset. Whereas when it comes to using that nutrient mindset, well, that's when we start really taking notice of the quality of the foods that we're going to be consuming. Because when we start applying that nutrient mindset for optimal well-being, you don't just you don't just build a better relationship with food, but the benefit is that you're in eating for nourishment. Your digestion improves, your blood sugar levels kind of moderate and regulate. Your mood improves, not forgetting, of course, serotonin, one of your mood enhancers, your mood transmitters. 90% of your serotonin is manufactured in the gut. Your immunity improves, your energy levels increase. When all of these things come together like that, we might start moving a little bit more. We might start exercising a little bit more. We might start sleeping a little bit better. All of these things combine together and it helps lowers our body weight to a more natural kind of fighting weight for us without deprivation. So the first goal is to switch to that goal of a mindset around nutrients. Now you'll notice on this lovely little graphic here that you've got carbohydrate proteins, in fact, these macronutrients. Now carbohydrates are foods that we consume that are broken down into glucose or blood sugar. And you'll notice that when we consume a carbohydrate, we get a big spike of blood glucose, and you see that it's quite a steep spike, but also cuts off quite quickly. It doesn't last for a long time, so the energy release is quick and acute and quite high, but it doesn't last a terribly long time. Then we start to think of different macronutrient like protein. We get proteins from meats, fishes, dairy, these products. There's other vegetarian products as well. Protein, as you can see, its effect on our blood glucose level is slightly different. Well, it's very different. So we still get a release of blood glucose, but it's much kind of shallower, isn't it, in terms of its effect on our blood glucose level, and it lasts a lot longer as well. So when we consume proteins, it doesn't give us that spike of blood sugar and then a drop in blood sugar. It's more constant, it's kind of more stable. And then finally, dietary fat. And again, do we all agree that we need to consume fat? We need fat in our diet. Do we all agree? Because it's been kind of brushed under the carpet. It's been kind of vilified, isn't it? That you can't have this, you can't have fat, you must do this, you must do that. Fat is essential for us, and it's great for our feelings of satiate. Fat gives us feelings of fullness and satiety for a longer time, as you can see in the graph. It's also brilliant, and it's so important for the development of our cells as well, and helps us absorb certain vitamins as well. So you'll notice here, it really does matter. As you can see, the different types of macronutrients that we consume have a different effect on our blood glucose level. So the foods that are higher in protein, the foods that you consume that are higher in dietary fat, have less impact on the blood sugar than your carbohydrates do. And this will help maintain your levels of blood sugar throughout your day. So what can we do to consume a little bit more protein, a little bit more fat? We can look at our existing habits and even upgrade them if we choose to. Now, how do we do that? So, click. If you had to introduce an upgrade in terms of your snacks, and you could upgrade your snacks to a more protein or a more dietary fat based snack, so a more protein dense snack or a more protein dense meal or dietary fat meal, what would you do to improve that? What would you do to enhance that? Click. Oh, my clicker seems to have been frozen. Are you guys still there? Can you hear me? See me? Give me a high five. And is it frozen for you on the screen? Whoops. Oh, there we go. Give me a high five. Can you see the upgrades slide? Hopefully you can. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're looking for those upgrades, right? We want to upgrade our existing habits. If we notice that we're lacking in nutrients and we're consuming more chemicals, we want to focus on those upgrades. So what can you do to upgrade? Notice that we want to develop and move certainly away from these high processed foods, these ultra processed foods that often for many of us are the things that we might reach for. They're very, very convenient. They're very easy to get hold of, but they're very high in chemicals and very low in nutrients. So we want to step away from those as best as often as we can, um, and upgrade to foods that have more nutrients and fewer chemicals. We want to upgrade to things like fruits and oats and whole grains and foods that consume foods that are more protein rich, that are more dietary fat rich as well. So we want to move towards those whole foods, don't we? Now we're not asking you to set world records here. We're just asking to experiment with a little upgrade. We're encouraging you to make a more conscious choice around the food and nutrition that you're looking at and to upgrade some of those food choices. So if you could upgrade a snack or a meal and make it a little bit more protein rich, a little bit more nutritious, what would be a simple way you could upgrade that meal? Or what would you upgrade it to? So again, look, listen, you're in charge of your life. You're in charge of your choices when it comes to nutrition. The key thing is to experiment and know why you're going to experiment with what you're going to do. So take a moment to think about experimentation and think about how you might upgrade a snack or a drink to contain more nutrients and fewer chemicals. Ask yourself, where are the nutrients in the foods or the meals that I'm about to consume? Where's the fiber? Where's the protein? Where's the carbohydrate? Where's the fat in the meal? So try home cooked meals. Of course, they're the best. Prepare meals, take them to work, prepare snacks for yourself, and see how you get on. I'm conscious of time, but let's touch base very quickly on fasting before we finish up. Now, one a lovely kind of visual analogy that I use quite often when trying to explain, the purpose or the importance of taking a break, giving your digestive system a healthy break, is I use the M25. The M25 is a ring road, of course, around London, and it's constantly busy. It's got loads and loads of traffic on it. And much like our digestive system, if we constantly feed in our digestive system, it never really has enough time to really do any kind of repair or rebuilding on itself. And when we fast, when we give our digestive system a break, it goes into action and it starts to heal itself. It starts to really repair and recover and rejuvenate, and it starts to kind of improve its function. So fasting, as you can see, is abstinence from all or some food or drink for a specific period of time. Um, the things to consider, I guess, with fasting is that you need to be functioning in pretty, your state of wellness and health needs to be pretty good in order for you to kind of practice a very kind of focused fasting. But certainly it's something to experiment with. It's something to look into, and it might be that it works for you. It might be something that you can wait a while and then experiment with a little bit later down the line. But how does it work? As you can see, we get this metabolic switch. So after about 12 hours or so of not eating, your body uses up all the glucose stores and then switches to using fat for energy. You get cellular repair, as you can see up on your screen here, and fasting actually triggers that cellular repair. And other different processes like autophagy is another process as well. And your body starts to clean itself, starts to get rid of those damaged cells as well. And then hormonal changes as well. Fasting can actually lower your insulin levels and increase growth hormone. And this helps with both fat loss and it also helps with muscle growth as well and repair. So fasting has certainly some benefits as you can see. And again, key important considerations. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a nutritionist. So I'm not kind of prescribing anything here, but what I would encourage is to look at giving your digestive system an adequate time for a break. So perhaps you could experiment with that 12-hour break, and typically a good time to do that would be overnight, right? So if you're having dinner at 7 p.m., you're not eating anything till at least 7 a.m. the following morning, and you've given your digestive system a break. It's been fasting anyway, isn't it? So it might be that you experiment with a slight extension of that break. It might be that you fast from a certain period of time to another certain period of time and see how you get on. But consult a professional, listen to your body. As you can see up on your screen here, focus on nutrition. Ensure that you are consuming a balanced and nutritious diet during that eating period that you have as well. Because sometimes when we fast, the gates are open when we come off the fast, right? Oh, I can eat now, and so we just fill our bits with food that's not nutritious, and because we've been fasting for so long. So take care when fasting, look into it, and learn what you can about fasting before you experiment with it. Remember, the food you eat can either be the safest and most powerful form of medicine or the slowest form of poison. Love that Anne Wigmore quote. Last little bit here. Remember, if you're going to focus on establishing a habit, it's really, really important that we recognize that motivation and willpower are unreliable. Do we all agree? Give me a high five. They're very unreliable. So we're not going to rely on motivation and willpower to get us through our habit, or to ensure that we are going to do our habit. I'm just going to launch a feedback poll very quickly. Before you escape today, feel free to jump on that feedback poll and drop me a bit of feedback. That'd be great. So again, simplify your habits. Motivation comes and goes like waves on a beach. So make sure that change, or the new habit that you're going to implement when it comes to your nutrition, when it comes to managing your hunger, make sure that it's very simple, very accessible. So even on those times when you are lacking in motivation or willpower, you can still access that particular habit. Now, remember, you're in control, and what you do every day matters more than what you do once in a while. So ensure that it becomes sustainable by making it accessible, making it simple, and making it manageable. You will discover in your Habits for Health program that there's some key modules under the pillar of nutrition that you can access to learn a lot more about some of the things that we've been talking about today. Feel free to dive straight into those modules and learn a lot more and experiment a lot more as well. See how you get on. If you have any questions, just drop them in quickly and I'll try and answer them. If you need to dart off and enjoy the rest of your day and experiment with your nutrition for today and the rest of the week, then go ahead. It just remains for me to say thank you so much for this bite-sized session and a little bit of an intro into kind of why we sometimes feel hungry and what we can do about it. I hope you found that useful today. If you have any questions, drop them in. Other than that, have a great day.